What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Listening Room. My name is Ryan Roberts, and in this episode we are checking out the Sonny Stitt album titled Stomp Off, Let's Go. So what drew me to this record is not only is it a Sonny Stitt record, and I love listening to Sonny Stitt play, but I had never heard of this record, right? So this was kind of like fresh. This was a new release to me. I didn't even know it existed. I was over at my friend Jason's house. He hooked me up with it. So thank you, Jason. And as the process goes with any jazz record, boom, check out the cover art. Oh, cool. Yeah, this looks good. Immediately flip it over. Who's the band? Who's on it? Who's playing bass, right? That's the very next thing that happens anytime I'm checking out an album. And so what I found out, thankfully, was Richard Davis is playing bass on this. The legendary Richard Davis. Not only is it a killing, going to be another killing performance by Sonny Stitt with Richard Davis, but Richard Davis is playing the electric bass, and I had to check this album out. All right, so let's dig into the record.
Released in 1976 on Flying Dutchman Records, Stomp Off, Let's Go captures Sonny Stitt during the later years of his remarkable career. By this point, Stitt had established himself as one of the defining voices of bebop and one of the most prolific saxophonists in jazz history, equally at home on both alto and tenor saxophone. Produced by the legendary Bob Thiele, the album brings together an exceptional group of musicians, including trumpeter Jon Faddis and Lew Soloff, guitarist Bucky Pizzarelli, drummer Bellson, and bassist Richard Davis. Rather than introducing new compositions, the album revisits familiar jazz standards and swing-era favorites, allowing the musicians the freedom to stretch, interact, and simply enjoy making music together.
Immediately, you can hear throughout the whole record, there's a chemistry between the musicians, and everybody's just kind of having fun playing with each other. There's a celebratory atmosphere to it almost. Everybody has the time to stretch out. Like, all the tunes on it are pretty long takes, so everybody has the chance to stretch. There's a lot of conversation, a lot of musical conversation that happens, and you could feel this sense of it's a very relaxed recording session. It sounds like they're just calling tunes kind of and having fun playing with each other with no preconceived notion of what this album is going to be other than documenting all these amazing musicians together.
Throughout his career, Sonny Stitt was often compared to Charlie Parker because of their similar alto saxophone sound. While those comparisons followed him for decades, Stitt's command of both alto and tenor saxophone, combined with his blues-infused phrasing, established him as one of jazz's most distinctive improvisers. By the mid-1970s, Stitt had become one of jazz's elder statesmen. Rather than chasing new trends, he continued doing what he had always done best, delivering confident, swinging performances with remarkable consistency.
Now, looking into this record as a complete work of art, there's only 4 tunes on the whole record, right? Side A has 2 cuts, side B has 2 cuts. But again, they're all pretty lengthy, and so there's a lot of time for everybody to really improvise and stretch out. There's a core band that's absolutely killing, and they are joined by percussionist Leopoldo Fleming on 3 of the 4 tunes, and he plays on both tracks here on side A.
The album opens with Samba de Orfeo, immediately establishing the relaxed energy that carries throughout the recording.
Now, what immediately interested me is, when I was looking at the back of the record cover, is that's not the typical spelling about how I'm used to seeing the title of this tune spelled. So that was interesting to me. I'm not sure if there is a standardized spelling for Orfeo or not, or if either one works. I don't know. On the record, it is Orpheo. That was just something new that caught my interest. The tune starts off with a drum solo by Louis Bellson, and then I'm waiting to hear Richard Davis's bass sound, right? I'm waiting for when the bass comes in. I know he's playing electric. I want to check this out. I want to check out his tone. So as soon as the bass enters, what I can immediately tell about this recording is the bass is going direct, right? Every other instrument, you hear the air around the instrument, but the bass is just boom, right down the middle, like hits you right between the eyes. He's getting a great sound, and what I love about that on this record is you can hear everything he plays. And now we get to study what his lines are. For the bass player, what we can learn from Richard Davis here is how he's playing the samba. Right, I love this because he's not doing the doon ging ging goon ding ding doon, right? That kind of dotted 8/16 if it were written in 4/4. With a halftime cut time feel, he's honoring the half note, right? With a little bit of space and being very deliberate about where the note ends, right? It creates a really nice pocket, lays a strong foundation, and he's not cluttering the rhythm of what's happening by adding all these pickup notes. It leaves a lot of space. It's super supportive. He's got a big sound, and I really like the fact that he approached playing this tune like that, and I think that is a huge lesson we can all take from Richard Davis when playing sambas.
Duke's Place pays tribute to the music of Duke Ellington while giving the ensemble room to stretch within a familiar framework.
Getting into track 2 on side A, it's a Duke Ellington blues titled Duke's Place. Again, this is another long cut, 8 minutes and 54 seconds. It's a long blues where all the soloists get a chance to stretch out. Now, because Richard's playing is so clear, we can really check out his note choice in the walking bass lines, right? We can really hear all the craftsmanship and the architecture and how deliberate every note was. That's something that's really important to me. It's something I try to communicate with students, and when I teach the workshops, we're always talking about being deliberate with your note choice and being an architect and crafting these bass lines. We get to hear Richard Davis do all of that here. We get to hear how he breaks up the beat and what his rhythmic vocabulary is in the walking bass line, and then what he's doing harmonically to add some different motion to a set of blues changes.
One of the highlights of the record is Perdido. Spanning nearly 12 minutes, the performance allows each musician to develop ideas while showcasing the chemistry between the horns and rhythm section.
Now, getting into side B of the album, this is the longest tune on the album at 11 minutes and 52 seconds. The tune is Perdido. Now, shame on me. Here's a little bit of a confession. Shame on me. I always thought this was a Duke Ellington tune. I don't know why. It was just existed in my mind that it was a Duke Ellington tune. In fact, it is not a Duke Ellington tune, and I should have known that. This tune was composed by a trombone player who played with Duke Ellington in the Duke Ellington Orchestra, Jon Tizol. Tizol, I'm not sure exactly the pronunciation. Jon was of Latin descent, and so the word perdido is a Latin term that means lost, sloppy, or indecent. Okay, that's fascinating. The plot thickens because Perdido is named after a famous street in Storyville. Storyville being, the projects down in New Orleans, kind of the birthplace of jazz, right? All the way back to Louis Armstrong and the brothels and that culture in which this music kind of came out of. Understanding that the term Perdido is named after the famous street in Storyville, I think is very cool. Understanding the translation of the term into English gives it a whole other layer, right? It kind of frames the tune a little bit differently. And so on Perdido, we get to hear Richard's super clear sound again. How he's playing the electric bass is not that of an upright player who happens to be playing an electric bass. He is absolutely playing the electric bass as an electric bassist. That's something worth acknowledging. How he creates his lines, where he goes to add more tension, the different sounds and articulations he's getting out of the instrument that are native to the bass guitar, all very cool, and how he's using all of these aspects to push the music forward and to inspire the soloist, and how he's using these to excite the music rhythmically as well as sonically and harmonically.
The record closes with Little Suede Shoes.
All right, and then the last cut on the record is Little Suede Shoes, tuned by Charlie Parker. Again, we have Latin rhythms, Latin jazz rhythms here. It's even eighths. So that shows us that the record is kind of bookended, right? We have Samba de Orfeo to start the album. We have Latin rhythms at the end of the record. So it's like Latin, swing, swing, Latin throughout the course of the album. It's kind of bookended that way, which I think is very cool and nice. There was definitely some thought put into that, and I like the thoughtful design of the album. Getting into Richard's playing here, he's approaching this like he did track 1 on the album, like really honoring the half note within the Latin rhythms and not cluttering it all up. He's playing the half note and honoring the big downbeats and the main pulse of the music without overly complicating the bass line with all the subdivisions. what caught my attention is specifically on the melody of this tune, right? The melody is incredibly rhythmic. He doesn't kind of jump on all of those rhythms. He lets those rhythms breathe from the melodic instruments while the melody is being played, and he's not trying to get in there and cop all the rhythms and all the hits within the melody. He's letting that breathe, and that's worth noticing. And listening through Richard's playing throughout the whole record, what he played and what he did not play both deserve attention. It's a little bit of a tendency when you have a melody that's so rhythmically strong to grab that and play that along with, you know, the instruments that are playing the melody. I love the fact that he didn't do it, and he kind of just let it happen and exist by itself and be its own musical statement. I think part of the Richard Davis sound throughout this record and so many other recordings is there's an identity of selflessness that comes through with his playing, and he's definitely there for the collective of the whole and what the whole band is doing. That's a mark. And that's a characteristic of a true master, absolutely. And we can hear that on this record. We can hear it on so many other records that he played on. It's aiming to serve the music first and foremost, and it has nothing to do with what he did or did not play. But his goal is to support the music that's happening right here, right now.
If you're discovering Sonny Stitt for the first time, there are several essential recordings worth exploring. Sunny Side Up, featuring Dizzy Gillespie and Sonny Rollins, remains one of the great tenor saxophone recordings in jazz history. Stitt Plays Bird highlights his deep connection to the bebop tradition while revealing his own musical identity. Salt and Pepper, recorded with Paul Gonsalves, is another classic that showcases Stitt's remarkable improvisational voice. Together, these recordings reveal the depth, versatility, and lasting influence of an artist whose music continues to reward repeated listening.